Hello, welcome back to my channel. So, if you've been following along, I am trying to actually do weekly updates. Oh, crazy, I know. It's happened so far twice this month, which means I'm on track. This will be third week in a row, sort of. The last two weren't quite the right day. This one is, though. It is the night of 21st going to the 22nd, which is perfect. Like, week 3 is just ended. Yay. So, we'll see. Anyway, I'm gonna tell you guys what I read for this week. And since I'm doing literally the 7th, 14th, and 21st as my, ends of weeks, this is not exactly corresponding to when we get our new ShARCs and all that fun stuff for ShARC August. So no real spoilers going on or anything like that in here. I do not have any secret information that I'm free to divulge. However, I do have some interesting arcs that I'm looking forward to. I won't say anything about why, if they're not ones that we already know why we're reading them. But I'll tell you about some of the ones I'm looking forward to, just in general, because I keep getting more, and they're so cool. But first of all, the books I finished in the last 7 days. A couple of these I do remember talking about briefly or not so briefly in the previous video, because the previous video was not on time. Sorry. So, Death and the Gardener by Georgi Gospodinov, and Death Takes Me by Cristina Rivera Garza were the ones that I was finishing up when I was doing that other video, the previous one. So those are done. Death and the Gardener was 5 stars. Death Takes Me was 2 stars. Not a good book. Don't recommend, unless you like abstract poetry that is pretending to be a murder mystery but isn't, and is really confusing. Yeah. Not a fan. Then we have If I Can Get Home This Fall, A Story of Love, Loss, and a Cause in the Civil War by Tyler Alexander. This one is a nonfiction about the Civil War, the U.S. Civil War, through the letters of, it's Daniel Mason, just a soldier in the Union side of the U.S. Civil War, just following him as he goes through all these different battles, and writing to his girlfriend back home. 5 stars, really good. Different perspective on the Civil War. And I don't remember seeing any of those letters referenced by other Civil War authors, but I haven't read all of them. So I'll keep an eye out and see if parts of these letters have showed up other places, because obviously these are from a Civil War museum that keeps all these things. So it's possible, but I don't think that the whole collection has been, laid out like this before. So really interesting if you're a Civil War buff. Definitely worth watching for. Then Murder in Constantinople by A.E. Goldin. 4.75 stars, but rounded to a 5 on a 5-star scale. This one is a murder mystery, but more of a historical fiction murder mystery. Spy thriller as well. And I think this one is leaning spy thriller by the time book 2 comes out. We'll find out, though. Whether there's consistently going to be bodies or whether it's going to be more, murder spy kind of blend, or I don't know. But it is the first in a series. So we should be expecting the next book eventually. Goodreads doesn't have it listed as a series yet, but there was a suggestion at the end of this one that there will be another one coming. So hopefully that's true. It was good. It was following a young Jewish man in London, young as in 15, who gets into a bit of trouble, a spot of bother, and finds himself running away from very bad men who want to kill him, and ends up in Constantinople, where someone he thought was dead was maybe photographed after they were supposed to have been dead and was not, and so he's trying to track down what happened, and gets in a whole bunch of adventure. Yeah, and any more than that would be spoiling it, and you should read it because it was good. So I was Murder in Constantinople by A.E. Goldin, Goldin. And I finished A Magic Deep and Drowning by Hester Fox, which was 4 stars. The writing left a lot to be desired in places, but the story made up for it. I really enjoyed it, and the magical creatures are based on Frisian and Dutch traditions. I don't remember. Frisian for sure, because that was heritage from the author that she was particularly interested in. So a lot of magical creatures that you don't hear mentioned a lot by those names for sure. And it's a retelling of The Little Mermaid, but with the genders switched. So merman, and there's a lot more under the sea, not just on top of it. So that one was fun. And dire whales, I definitely want to see more of these dire whales, because just the concept is lovely. So yeah, it would be cool if Hester Fox did a few more books in this world that she's created, because that was kind of cool. But I found the characters themselves a little annoying, especially the main female character, who's supposed to be this pampered sort of hothouse flower little girl she's 20 years old now. She's going on 21. She's going to be married off and is going to have a nice, comfortable adult life with her spouse, normal life. And she's been so sheltered, so isolated. And she is isolated. She has grounds for complaint on that. And her parents don't really seem to love her. They don't like her, and they're not nice. But they're not abusive. They're just not nice. By our standards, there could be grounds for child abuse, but maybe not enough to be taken away from your parents' level of child abuse. So she doesn't have the nicest family. It could be a lot worse. And more importantly, she's not sitting around in the library reading all the books, which is important because she's spending all of her time doing embroidery and taking walks and frittering away her time. She doesn't even know how to bake bread. She doesn't have practical knowledge or book learning, really. So at some point, she finds herself making speeches at court defending her species, and she is way too prepared for this. As if she's the sort of character like Belle in Beauty and the Beast, who devours any book that she comes across. Belle could do this. She would have the background, the vocabulary to be able to do this. I found it unlikely that, given the background for this girl, that she would rise to the occasion and have the capacity to be able to do what she's supposed to be doing. So I found that a little annoying. It would not have been hard to adjust her storyline to include that she spends her free time in the library reading her dad's books. It could happen. It's not really in there. Or if it was, I didn't notice it, which means it wasn't very emphasized if it was in there. She's really framed as being this frivolous, unprepared girl who needs a crash course even to be able to manage a household. She is not a nerd, and not legally minded and capable of giving speeches and arguments and things. She hasn't been trained in rhetoric. Yeah, so that was problematic. She has great instincts and is willing to work. We find that out. That's great. But needed some tweaking. And then the love interest, the merman. Just as in Little Mermaid, he's of royal birth. He's a prince in his land, or under the land, or under the water, or whatever. So he's a prince. He's grown up knowing he's a prince. That however much he might push back against being the king or being, in line for the kingship, he's not a little kid. So half the time he goes off in a sulk and acts like he's 5. Which just, it didn't work. So that's why it's a 4-star. If the characters had been more consistent with the story that they're supposed to be participating in and their roles that they're supposed to be playing, it would have been a 5-star book. So if there are more in this world, and it would be nice if there are, I just like to see a little more careful character work so that the characters hold together and make sense with what they're doing and why, and that they have the preparation for the things that they're doing, that it makes sense that they're doing those things. So that would be my big criticism, and it was annoying enough that I couldn't just pretend it away and enjoy the book at times. But there was enough to enjoy that it's still worth reading. And then I finished Useless Etymology, Offbeat Word Origins for Curious Minds by Jess Zafarris. This was for a nonfiction book for a Toothmark challenge, which is a 24-hour limited time challenge. It was going to be a buddy read of sorts with Anna, the Book Dreamer's Alley, I believe. I always forget channel names when I'm not looking at them, but I think that's what she calls it. We were going to read it together. She's still reading Midnight Muse, which is fine because it's a really good book, and I don't want her to rush it too much because it's that good a book. And she's been very distracted. So if you make it over to her channel, check out her campaign. She's trying to do some fundraising to pay for her master's degree second year. She's having some issues with financing it, and so she's crowdfunding her school financing, which makes total sense, but it's a little tricky with international crowdfunding. So I think she's sorted it out. Check it out if that sounds like something you'd like to help out with. And yeah, hopefully she'll be able to get enough funding that she'll be able to afford the first semester at least. And then she has some options maybe by the time second semester runs around. So we'll see if we can get her through her master's. So she's been a little distracted. But I'm sure she'll get to this one because it's actually one that she picked off of her list and then I went and requested it. So I think she'll enjoy it. Hopefully with more time to read it since she's run out of time for that tooth mark challenge. Anyway, because this one's one that I gave it 4 stars. It's good. I might have given it a rounded up to 5, but no, I gave it 4 stars. It's good. It's one that if I'd read it a few pages at a time, just spread out, I might have enjoyed it a little more, although I would have liked a little bit more to some of the sections. I'm not really the type for those books that are just a bunch of random trivia that's not really readable. You just, read a couple sentences and put it down again. I like books that you sit down and you read them cover to cover. This is not one of those. It's closer to a cover to cover sort of book than I was expecting. But it's still more on the random trivia end of that spectrum. Something you keep in your bathroom and don't expect to sit there very long kind of thing. I don't know if people still do that. When I was a kid, all of our older relatives had these little bookshelves kind of above the back of the toilet. And it was always cutesy little, Reader's Digest style stories that you just pull one down if you're going to be there for a while. And there were books that would actually suggest that they're for bathroom reading. So I don't know if that's still a thing. Now everybody's got phones. I would imagine that they just bring their phone into the bathroom with them. But, this would be the sort of book, though, that could live in the bathroom for that kind of reading. But it was good. And I, as a nerd with 3 different college degrees and 3 different subjects, still found a lot that I didn't already know. There was a lot that I did, but there was also a lot that was new to me too. So that was fun. I do wonder sometimes at how much etymology is taught in school nowadays, because I know we got etymology in 10th grade just as part of the curriculum. So some of the stuff that was in here that I already knew, I've known that since 10th grade because we covered that. But anyway, if you didn't get it in school, it's fun stuff. And there's stuff that just wasn't in school too, including some things that were maybe not appropriate for school. So not a lot of that, but a little bit. And then the other book that I've finished is A Truce That Is Not Peace by Miriam Toews. Or Toews? Yeah. Toews. That's right. Toews. Rhymes with waves. Yeah. Okay. Toews. Toews for people that have not investigated this pronunciation. Because I know I've seen this author talked about on other channels. They were saying Toews. So, yeah. We had somebody in our little group that was reading it that looked it up. So, Toews. So, this is a memoir. The author normally writes fiction, and I've heard of her in discussions of possible women's prize nominees and things like that. She's that kind of author. She has received prizes and been discussed for a lot of prizes. So she was of interest because of that, and because the Women's Prize has a nonfiction section. So this one could be in the running for the Women's Prize for Fiction, or Women's Prize for Nonfiction, part of the Women's Prize for the next round. So I could see it. It was a 4-star for me, and a 4-star, I think, for everybody else in our little group reading it. But that doesn't mean it's not in the running for prizes. It just means it didn't quite hit the 5-star for us. Definitely one of those books that has a lot to say on mental health, gender and gender roles and self-esteem and all that fun stuff. I could definitely see how I would use this book for a paper in gender studies classes, in mental health related courses, papers about the effects of childhood trauma, all sorts of stuff. There's not as much about her family's religious background, which I understand that there's some interesting stuff with her family's connections to the Mennonite tradition. It's mentioned, but not a lot in this one. But there's still a lot going on in this book. And it's starting out trying to answer the question why she writes for a conference in Mexico that wants to know. And all of the people participating in this conference are supposed to answer this question. And they keep rejecting her answers because they're not really answers to the question per se. They're circumlocuting around it instead of actually just answering the question. And yeah, beyond that, read the book. It's good. It is a bit poetic or lyrical or vague in places. It reminded me of the kinds of personal stories people tell when they don't really want to tell you their personal stories, but at the same time they kind of do, and so they skirt around things to where it gets confusing because they're leaving stuff out because they don't really want to tell, but they do. It's that kind of thing. So it definitely comes across as very authentic. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I do recommend it. And it has a boat on the cover, which is why we were reading it, because we have a treasure hunt challenge going on right now where we needed a book with a boat on the cover. And enough of us had this one waiting in the wings that we might as well. So the next book that I'm reading, I'm actually partway through Kingdom of the Sun by H.P. Nero, which is limping along at a 2 to 3 star right now. I know first person is trendy right now. It has been for a while, especially in YA, and this book leans YA for sure. It is not helping this book because the main character is a teenager. Or no, actually she's not even a teenager. She reads like a teenager. She reads like she's about 12 to me, which is not quite. She's actually 21. She reminds me of 12-year-olds though, that, yeah. So she's not very observant. So we only have her perspective on everything. If she is not perceiving the room, we don't see the room. So we don't have good scene setting. We don't have good descriptions of characters because she's not giving us any good descriptions of anything. So I don't feel like I know any of the characters except her, and I don't like her. So that's a problem. She reads as if she's 12, So if she's supposed to be old enough for the story to make sense, like old enough to be married off, and for it not to be inappropriate, she does not seem old enough for that. She's oddly ill-prepared for things. And so throw all this together, and then on top of it, because we're only in her perspective, we don't break out into narrator telling us what's going on ever so far. We get these info dumps where in the dialogue between her and some other character, they're just throwing all this information at us in a way that would be appropriate if they were in a school setting. So if this was a tutor teaching her about the magic and the characters of this world, it would make sense. But we're not in that setting. So it just comes across as artificial info dump. And that happens a lot. So I want to like it because the world building's actually cool. But it's not very well paced. The characters are not well drawn. And it needs something to add to the perspective that we're getting from her. Maybe one of those where it alternates between 2 or 3 characters' perspectives, so that we at least get something else besides just her. Maybe we'll switch to somebody else, because I'm still only about 40% in. But it's limping along because it's just not very good so far. But it's great world building, so that's okay. And I started The Unbroken Coast, which also has a boat on the cover, but is a bit longer. This one is by Nalini Jones and is set, I think, in India. But I will know more about that. I won't be finished with it for at least a day or two. And then I have a few new ones. One book that I'm going to get to is Atlas of Unknowable Things by McCormick Templeman. This one is going to be a buddy read. We've got a thread put on the Arc August Discord for it. And we will be getting to it eventually. So if it looks interesting to you, or if you've got it, keep an eye out for activity on that thread, because that one's going to be fun. One that I got, actually I think a couple that I got, are from a promo that NetGalley has been doing, promoting debut authors. So I picked up a bunch of them, actually. Doll Parts by Penny Zhang, which has a cover that I would never have picked it for. But it sounded good when I read the description. So I got it, and we'll see if it's any good. The Cormorant Hunt by Michael Idov. Another one where the cover would not have drawn me in very much, but I know what a cormorant is, and I like them, and they're cool. So that one's because of the bird in the title. If the Dead Belong Here by Carson Faust, which also, I guess the description was interesting. Dust Settles North by Dina El Gennady. I don't remember if this one was from that promo or if it's just one that looked good. Exo by Colin Brush, which is sci-fi, I believe, and might have been in that promo. I got The Art of Mental Warfare by Fiona McKenzie, which might have been just one that looked interesting. It's got kind of a medieval art on the cover, or at least that coloration and style. Mildly Unhinged by Michelle E. Keith. I think that one's mental health related. I don't remember anymore. Breaking Story by John Ross. The Four Spent the Day Together by Chris Kraus. And Murder on the Mississippi by Saladin Amber. Those last two I may not get to for a while because they don't have the NetGalley reader option. So those ones, I got them. Eventually they might sort out whatever the glitch is that makes it so I can't download their books using my Chromebook. Because it used to work and now it doesn't. And I'm sure there's a lot of disgruntled Chromebook users. Eventually they might fix it. And I've got a bit of time on those because they don't have an archive date yet. So we'll see. And then the one that I'm starting for sure tonight probably is Business Beyond Borders by Dean Foster. This one is for the new Toothmark Challenge, which was just posted a couple hours ago. Well, at this point, about 8 hours ago. Business Beyond Borders, Stories, Tales, and Lessons Learned from Working in 100 Cultures Around the World by Dean Foster. This one actually does sound interesting. So I'm not compromising my collection of arcs for Toothmark challenges. We had to have one about business, leadership, or finance. So this one works for that. Then I have quite a few others that I'm interested in starting. I still have about 250 more than 250 arcs. The other ones I got that were new. I got Revenge of Odessa by Frederick Forsyth and Tony Kent. I've read 2 books by Frederick Forsyth that I really liked. They're thrillers, international thrillers. They're so much fun. So I'm looking forward to that one. And Odessa is, of course, in Ukraine. So familiar setting at this point. Palace of Deception by Darren Lund. Imperfectly Innocent by Tony Alfret. And Ultimate Origami Challenge Kit for kids 8 to 12. I'm going to have so much fun with that one. I've got some fancy paper that I'm going to be playing with to go through that book. I'm still working on the Sisterhood of Ravensbrück. I'm making my way through it, but it is heavy going. I will get through it. It's not bad. It's just, I'm not done with it yet. The Oneros Chronicles is good so far, I think, but I need to get back into it. It's been a few too many days for me to remember without reading it again. At least a little bit. 10 Incarnations of Rebellion I started 2 days ago because I'm running out of time on it. That's by Vaishnavi Patel. It is good so far. I'm enjoying it. But I only have a couple days left before the reader book expires. So we'll get to it. And then one that Chris was going to read today that I also need to read soon before I run out of time is The Oxford Soju Club by Jinwoo Park, which Chris says is short. I haven't looked at how long it is, but if it is in fact short, I may get to that one tomorrow because I've been wanting to read it for a while now. So I think that's what's next on my itinerary. And we'll see, because you never know what becomes of interest. I also have one print book that I've started and been reading because I did need some change of pace. All this screen reading is driving me nuts because I don't normally do this much screen reading. It's usually audiobooks or print books. So I started a random murder mystery thriller, Marshall's Law by Ben Sanders. And it's a guy that used to be law enforcement maybe with the U.S. Marshals, but he's in witness protection. I think he was a former cop that was undercover. Yeah. And so he's in witness protection, thus the U.S. Marshals. And we started out with a U.S. Marshal getting kidnapped, and he escapes, but he's maybe has information about the whereabouts of this guy, Marshal. Lots of marshals. I'm not sure I like that part. Like, it wasn't necessary. It's cute, but it's a little confusing. But so far it's good. And I might do this again in a few arcs, just pick another random print book, because I do like having something besides the screen to focus on to read. So there may be some print books that I finish this month, and that I'll have something to show for all this reading. It'll be great. Anyway, I'm going to get this video uploaded and get back to my reading and all that fun stuff. Probably go to bed soon, actually. It's 3:30 almost in the morning. So it's actually kind of getting to my bedtime even. But definitely I'm going to try and make progress on that business book before bed, so that I can finish it before 5:15 tomorrow evening, which is when that challenge expires. I should be able to manage it tomorrow morning if I get started tonight. And I will catch everybody in the next video or somewhere in sprints or on Discord. So talk to you later, everyone. Oh, and if you made it to this part of this video, and you need to make a comment and you haven't thought of one yet, but you need a comment so that you can get some points. Again, as always, leave me an emoji and the name of the book that you're reading. Try to make the emojis so that it hints at what you're reading. Yeah, sounds like fun. Or just your favorite emoji. Yeah, I've been doing dolphins for reasons. Yeah, dolphin team. Dolphins are good. I'm gonna get back to my work. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys!